You bet. You bet. Okay, so we are live, everyone. I'm Nolly Williams, and this gentleman that we have today, we're going to learn a lot of information from Bill Brunchick. And what I want to do first, before we turn it over to Bill, I'm going to share with you a little bit about Bill. And I do mean a little bit, because if I was to share everything, all the information that I have in front of me about Bill, we would be here for hours. So what I'm going to share with you is just the cliff notes. And Bill, I'm going to allow you to kind of fill this out as you give your presentation. So Bill Brunchick, real estate investing mentor. Bill Brunchick is the host of LegalWiz.com, is a nationally known attorney, author, entrepreneur, and a public speaker. And for those of you that kind of hung out with us just a little while before we kicked this off, you probably heard that Bill has spoken to audiences of tens of thousands. He's spoken to many real estate agents. He is an attorney. He's an accomplished individual. And he's here to share his knowledge with us. A mutual friend of ours, Ren, connected us last week. And I said, this is the kind of information that we absolutely need to get out to our tribe before we start 2021. Okay, so this is how to close more deals using creative financing. And it is a sexy, it doesn't sound as sexy as it is, but you'll see why it's so sexy as Bill kind of gets into presenting. So Bill, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know I didn't do you justice on the
No, you did fine, No, you did just like my mother wrote it. It was perfect.
Okay, I love it. I love it.
All right. So hello, everybody from all over the country. This is Bill Brunchick. I'm in Colorado Springs right now, and we're going to talk about how to close more deals using creative financing. And, it's you could see from the background here, Colorado can get pretty cold in the winter too. Usually it's pretty nice. People think we freeze here because every time we watch a Broncos game, it's snowing. But most of the time it's pretty sunny and temperate in the winter, except when it's snowing. But we do get some cold snaps in January and December where it gets to be like 3 degrees for 4 days. And we had one of those recently, and I called an HVAC guy, and it's hard to get an HVAC guy on the phone when it's that cold because everybody's got a problem. But I got a guy who's a contractor for my rentals. And I got him to come out, and he comes into my basement, and he's got a tool belt on with all these tools, and he pokes around my furnace for about 3 minutes and goes, I see your problem. He pulls out a rubber mallet and he whacks on it a few times and it kicks right in. I said, wow, that was great. Thank you so much. You're a genius. Well, about a week later, I get a bill in the mail. It's for $1,000. So I called him up. I said, dude, $1,000? You were here for like 15 minutes. I'm an attorney and I don't even get that kind of money an hour either. He says, well, I didn't get it when I was an attorney either. I said, okay, wise guy, you want to send me an itemized bill? He says, oh, you want an itemized breakdown? There it is, itemized bill. Here it goes. Tapping with hammer, $10. Knowing where to tap, priceless. So what I'm going to teach you folks today and share with you is where to tap in the market for 2021 and beyond to make more money, more commissions, and get more deals closed. And what we're going to cover today is an overview of what I call creative financing. This is a technique that I've been using for many years, both as an investor, as an attorney, as I'm also a licensed broker, and close lots and lots of deals doing creative financing because it's an alternative way that a lot of brokers don't know how to close a transaction. They may have heard of it a little bit, but they haven't done it. So we'll talk about the benefits for sellers and buyers. We're going to talk about techniques like lease options, wraps, installment land contract, and how to get started using creative financing. A little bit of my experience in this is I've been a real estate attorney for 30 years, and I've been investing for 28 years. So I've also been a real estate investor, been a real estate broker for 8 years, and I've owned a title agency for 22 years. I've closed a lot I specialize in these types of transactions. So I've done residential, multifamily, and commercial as an attorney, as an individual investor, as a closer. And I was the president of the Colorado Association of Real Estate Investors, called CARI, for 18 years. And I'm currently the president of COLA, which is the Colorado Landlords Association, a group we formed last year for Colorado landlords. And unfortunately, we've been stymied by this darn coronavirus, and meetings have been tough, but we've been meeting online and still networking and getting things done. And I've done over 1,500 creative transactions, probably closer to 2,000 by now. I stopped counting after about 1,200, and that was many years ago. So I've done a lot of these transactions. I know what can go right, what can go wrong. And I've invested in 3 market cycles and in 7 different states. So I got a feel for how things go nationwide. I've also written 6 books published on real estate. Some of you may have read one or more of my books. One is you really like. One is Flipping Properties. That was my best-selling of the bestsellers. How to Sell a House Fast in a Slow Real Estate Market. I wrote in 2009, but I was about a year too early. People weren't motivated enough. So by 2010, it really started to pick up in sales, and I did a companion infomercial with that, How to Sell a House Fast in a Slow Real Estate Market, which some of you may have seen on TV and when I was younger and better looking. So you can see here, this is some of my thing. The bottom right there, that was the infomercial. Some of these a few pounds ago, is obviously, and a few years ago. I've been on CNBC and Fox and NBC and so forth. I've been interviewed in LA Times, USA Today, Time Magazine, Wall Street Journal, Investors Business Daily, and so forth. And this is some of my portfolio. You can see I've got single family, condo, multifamily. I've done self-storage facilities, warehouses, mobile home parks. The only thing I haven't done, which I'm dying to do, is get a car wash. I want to get one of those car washers when you put the quarters in, it goes beep, beep, beep when it's about to go out and you're rushing to get it done. I want to replace those with swipe cards with your credit card. So you got your earphones on, you're looking at your phone, you're not thinking about it, and you're going 15 minutes on the car. That's what I want. Anyone who comes across one of those, let me know. You get 3 for the price of 1 with me. I'm an attorney, I'm a broker, and I'm an investor, so I can hit it from all angles. So let's start with an overview of creative financing and so how it works. Now, what is creative financing? What do I mean by that? A buyer does not or cannot get a bank loan in traditional ways for whatever reason. It could be a bankruptcy, it could be not enough time on the job, it could be inconsistent income or whatever. Seller does not get all cash at closing, but gets his house sold quickly for top dollar. And sometimes the seller doesn't need all cash at closing. I mean, most sellers, let's face it, are not going to do this. Most sellers want every dollar out of their home so they can get all the equity and buy another home, either larger or smaller. That's the typical seller. But there are some sellers who say, look, I just want to get rid of the monthly payment. I can't carry this anymore, but I don't need all my money up front. I just want top dollar out of it because they want what they want. You know how it is as a broker. You get sellers who say, I want X, and you're trying to tell them, look, it ain't worth X. It's not going to sell for X. But you can still get X, but you can't get it necessarily all cash. You can get it in other ways. And it means get more deals closed by you as the agent or broker and solve the sellers and buyers problems and get paid. That's what it means. So the opportunities I see in 2021 is there's going to be a lot of borrower defaults and foreclosures because the jig is just about up at the end of this month, with the deferments. Now, Congress may pass something and extend it. Some states might individually extend foreclosure and eviction moratoriums. That's possible. But for the most part, I think that the banks have pretty much ate all they can eat with this thing. And they're going to put pressure on Congress and their local authorities to say, well, let us foreclose. We need to get our money back. So there's going to be a lot of defaults and a lot of foreclosures. Some people might get into a forbearance, but unless how it is, unless you're working and you can prove income, you don't qualify for a forbearance. So that excludes a lot of people. We're going to have a lot of motivated sellers, even in a market where there's low inventory and prices still may rise. There still will be a small number of people, enough for us to do business with, that are going to be motivated. There'll be lots of motivated buyers who can't qualify for loans because their credit's been damaged from this COVID thing, loss of a job, loss of a business, etc. So solve sellers' problem, solve buyers' problem, and get paid. We're not in the real estate business, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the problem-solving business. Solve problems, you get paid. The late Zig Ziglar, who I got to meet many times when I was speaking for Get Motivated, super sweet guy. And he used to say, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll have whatever you want. I hope that was a good imitation. So what are the benefits for the parties involved? So for the seller, you always get a higher price if you offer terms than if you want cash. And that's just because if you offer all cash, that means a buyer's got to come in with dollars or a loan. And there's only so many people who can qualify for that position. If you offer terms, you're expanding your pool of buyers, and more demand equals higher price. It's as simple as that. And those of you know it intuitively, if you've ever bought a car or furniture from or Best Buy, they always, when they offer soft terms like no payments and no interest for 4 years, they're always going to sell a product faster and for the highest price as well. You can't go to a car dealer and say, yeah, I want no money down and $4.99 a month. And by the way, knock the price down 10 grand. They're not going to do that. When they advertise X amount down, X amount a month, this is the price it's at. You can't get both. You can't get both price and terms. There's no lender profiting off the buyer. That's just more net to the seller. And that's a good thing. So when you have a lender involved, an institutional lender, they're reaching their hand into the deal and pulling out money out of either the buyer's or the seller's pocket. You get a faster closing, which is what a seller often wants. And what's great about selling on terms is you get deferred tax liability on income properties. Now, if you're selling your personal residence and your gain is less than $500,000, if you're married, you get the 121 exclusion where you don't pay taxes. But if it's an income property and you bought it 15 years ago for 100 grand and now it's worth 350, 400, that's a monster gain. By selling on terms over a number of years, you're deferring liability for capital gains over a period of time as you receive it, which is very beneficial to the seller. You also can earn interest on your equity at a better rate than a savings institution. Now talk to your seller. Your seller says, I have to have all cash. What do you have to have all cash for? So I can put the money in the bank and get what? 0.75%? That's silly. Offer terms, get a higher price, defer the tax liability, and get 4 or 5% interest on your money. And what better investment to collateralize that payment stream with than a property right? So for the buyer, easy qualification, and that's the key. If you make it easy for a buyer to qualify, not have to go to a bank and put 20% down and qualify for a loan where the lender is going to be putting them through the ringer with tax returns and W-2s and the color of their underwear and so forth. Easy qualification means more people interested as buyers. More buyers, more demand, higher price. So it's a benefit for the buyer. They can build a payment history, even if it's only a short-term finance. Like a lot of sellers say, I can't carry it for 30 years. Well, that's fine. Carry it for 5 and with a balloon. And then the buyer can get refinanced after a couple of years. And it's easier to get a refi loan on a property you own than it is to get a purchase money loan on a property you don't. No loan costs involved. It's just seller and buyer negotiating terms. So that's less money the buyer has to come up with. A faster closing. I've had buyers who literally just came to town living in a motel, said, I just started a new job. I can't qualify for a traditional loan because I just started this job, but I've got 50 grand down and I need someone to carry it for me. And I need it like this week. And a chance at the American dream. And that's what we're about. Just opening up the opportunities for the buyer to be a part of the American dream. And if they're not part of that little, elitist club where they've got 20% down and the ability to qualify for a loan, they're edged out of the game. So we're opening that opportunity to more and more people to get into a house. So for the real estate agent, that's the good stuff. The benefits for them is generate more opportunities for listings. If a seller, for example, owes 400 and the property's worth 400, a lot of agents will say, well, where's my commission there? There's no room. Either the seller has to come to the table with money, which they're not willing to or can't do, or short sale, right? And there's nothing really you can do there as an agent. So you're generating more opportunities for listings by making it an opportunity to get an easy qual buyer in, which is a fast close. And it allows you to generate a larger pool of buyers. So even if you don't sell this house to that buyer, you may have a large pool of buyers that you can go shop for another house that you can close using these creative terms. And most importantly, you're going to edge out the 99.9% of agents who just don't know this stuff. Nolly, I started doing, this stuff was very popular in the late 70s, early 80s, stuff I'm going to discuss. And the reason was because interest rates were 112% back then. Remember, and people used to do these little techniques to get around that. And, if there was an existing 4% loan, they wanted to get around that without the lender calling in the loan. So it went away for a while, and then it kind of came back. I started doing this in the late 90s, teaching brokers, teaching investors how to do this. And when I started teaching brokers, I wasn't sure the reception I was going to get. I was like, well, maybe they're just going to rip me to pieces and say, this is crazy stuff. We're going to get in trouble. No way. Don't do this stuff. Nobody's going to agree to it. And it was surprisingly, I got a very good reception when I started offering free seminars to brokers and saying, look, this is a technique you can learn and teach your seller or buyer and close more deals. And they were like, bring it on, more. I remember when we used to do this stuff in the 80s back then, and I'm so glad someone's bringing it back. So the reception I got was pretty good. We'll see what the brokers online say to this during the webinar with the questions. All right. So the bottom line is get more deals closed and get more and faster commissions, because when you're offering creative terms, you don't have to wait for a bank for a month and a half or two to underwrite a loan. You just seller, buyer, agree on terms, boom, go to the title company or attorney and get this stuff closed. Okay. And if you have questions as we go, feel free to throw them in the chat. A lot of people ask if my slides are going to be available or this is being recorded. Yes, it is. Yes, it'll be available. And Nala, you can email out a link to everybody for the replay when we're done. And if you have questions, just pop them in the Q&A. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I'll monitor the chat as well. So
yeah, go ahead.
I'll monitor the chat.
Thank you.
Too.
Thank you. All right. So the creative financing techniques, and I teach many, and I do many. I'm going to cover 3 tonight that I think are the most effective ones that you'll work with in 2021. One is a lease with option. 2 is what we call a wrap or wraparound. And 3 is a contract for deed, also known as an installment land contract. Now, some of you may have heard of these, but not really sure how to use them. Some of you are worried about using them because you're worried about liability. Some of you may have done all 3 of these and continue to do them. Great for you if you have. Some of you may have done these in the past, but now you just haven't used them in a while and you want to dust them off and use them again in the upcoming market where there's going to be lots of opportunities, and that's a good thing too. But my goal is for those of you watching is to learn more about this technique, really master it, and have a toolbox full of tools. Most agents just have a hammer, which is, I'm going to list a property, or I'm going to take a buyer who's going to put 20% down, go get a bank loan and buy the property, and that's all they know. I'm going to offer you the toolbox. And the more solutions you have for a seller or a buyer in the toolbox, the more deals you're going to get closed. These won't work all the time. I'm not going to say you can do this every day of the week, but you can do it any day of the week. And you'll be doing them more and more. It may be the only thing you do, which is great. You may specialize in this, or you just may pull these out, a half a dozen times a year to close a difficult deal. So let's go through. A lease with option, also known as a lease purchase or rent to own. It's all the same thing. It's a lease agreement with an option to purchase contract. Combined together equals a lease purchase or lease with option to purchase or rent to own. It's all the same thing depending on how you market it. What you have here is a landlord-tenant relationship, essentially, but the tenant has an option to buy at agreed upon price and terms ahead of time. So for example, if we had a seller who had title to the property with an existing first mortgage, the buyer/tenant is going to come in with a lease with option, and the seller is going to collect payments on the lease with option and continue paying his underlying loan. At some point, the buyer is going to go to his lender. Maybe they filed bankruptcy a year ago and they need another year to qualify for an FHA loan, or maybe 3 years to qualify for a Fannie Freddie loan. Or maybe they've just started a business a year ago and the lender says you got to be 2 years in business. Or maybe they got a divorce and they need a credit. They took a credit hit and they need a couple of years to fix that, whatever it may be. Or maybe just the buyer just wants to try before they buy. They just moved to town. They don't really want to rent, but they're not ready to buy. So they want to rent something with the option to buy. Whatever it is, it's a win-win for both parties. The seller is typically someone in the scenario I described earlier, where it's worth $300. They owe pretty close to that, but they've got a really low mortgage payment that would be less than market rent. And they can lease it have monthly payments. And guess, by the way, if they don't want to be a landlord, you be the property manager and collect a fee off of that as well and get a commission when it buys. So the nitty gritty is the seller gets a higher price by offering lease with option, and he gets rental income in the meantime. The tenant has an option to buy at a fixed price, and he's usually going to put up non-refundable option or earnest money. Sometimes we call it option money. Sometimes we call it earnest money. It's A, non-refundable. B, gets applied to the purchase price when they buy and if they buy. If they don't buy, it's non-refundable. But that cash up front is cash that the brokers can use for their services. It may not be a full 3% each side, but it's something now. Maybe they manage it and get a monthly fee. And at the back end, when the tenant buys, they get a commission then. So they can get an otherwise unsaleable property. You might as well throw a Hail Mary at it and give this a shot. So long as the tenant buys within 3 years, it qualifies for the Section 121 capital gains exclusion. So if this was the seller's primary and they're moving out, let's say to a new home, and they don't need all the money now or they don't have any equity, the tenant can pay rent to cover that monthly payment, get a little monthly cash flow, and then as long as the tenant buys within 3 years, because a seller has to live 2 out of 5, then it qualifies for exclusion from capital gains under 121. Agent can get a fee up front, a management fee, and a full commission when the tenant is ready to buy. Let's see, we have a few questions. I can do a few questions as we go. And then I promise at the end, I'll save some time for questions. And my little thing's not popping up. There it is.
So you want me to read these through?
I got it.
You got it. You're a pro at this, Bill.
Yeah, I've used Zoom. I tell you, I've used Zoom so much lately. If I see another Zoom event, thank you, Sham. I appreciate it. I know Sham ready. Exact strategies we'll need for doing this. A lot of good praise. I always get 6% from buyers, so both agents get paid. I don't have to get money out of pocket for closing costs. That's great. So let's talk about the wrap, which is the second strategy. And that's cash flow on the interest rate spread. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at the bank's dirty little secret. Banks offer savings account at less than 1% interest. Then the same bank lends funds to the same customers for car, business, and home loans at 4 to 6% or more. That's the spread. They get a spread on the interest rate of what they borrow at. And, on a bigger scale, they borrow from the Federal Reserve at, next to nothing and go and turn around and lend it out to people at higher rates, and they make a substantial amount of money. We're going to do the same thing selling houses on a wrap. The seller is going to leave the underlying loan in place instead of paying it off. The seller offers an owner carry at a top price. The buyer puts about 10% down or more, and the seller carries the balance at a premium interest rate. So we're making money both off the rise in the price and the spread on the interest rate. Now, seller's going to collect interest from this buyer and pay on the underlying loan at a lower interest rate and a lower payment, and catches the spread monthly. So he'll get 10% down, some of which can go to the broker commissions, a little in his pocket, plus a monthly spread of a lot more than rent. I mean, if it rents for $400 a month cash flow, it'll wrap for $800 to $100 to $1,000 a month cash flow. And if the seller has no interest in being a landlord, this is great because the buyer is a buyer. He pays taxes, insurance, maintenance, management. It's all his. The seller is just a lender. So let's look at it visually. Let's say someone had an existing loan with the bank at 4%, and he's making a payment every month, and he's collecting from a buyer a payment on a higher purchase price, higher loan balance at 6.5%. Now you might be thinking, what buyer is going to pay 6.5% in this market? A buyer who can't qualify for a loan. And it may not be permanent. This might be a Band-Aid for a buyer who just needs 2 or 3 years to refi. But I've had buyers who went and paid 6.5% for the rest of their life because, there's a lot of people who are in their own business that deal with what I call the debacle, the catch-22. How do you look broke to the IRS and rich to a bank? So, they're trying to make it look like they don't make much because they're self-unemployed, but then go to a bank and try to qualify for a loan. It's a tough thing to do. a lot of buyers are willing to pay a premium interest rate and a premium price for the opportunity to get into a house with easy qual. Okay. And if you can convince your seller of doing this, especially if you've got a seller, I said, who doesn't have a lot of equity, but he's got a low interest rate, he's got a 3.5% mortgage or 4% mortgage, and you could wrap it on a higher rate, it's a huge cash flow spread. The third one is an installment land contract. Now, this is another way of kind of wrapping it. It's similar to a lease option, but it's not. It's a sale. So what happens is the seller conveys what we call equitable title at closing. They sign up a land contract, or also known as a contract for deed or agreement for title, sometimes referred to as a sales contract, sometimes referred to as a bond for deed. It's all the same thing. It's similar. Think about the car business. When you sign an installment obligation to buy a car, you pay payments on the note. You're responsible for the car. You're responsible for the maintenance and the insurance and the taxes, etc. And who holds title? The lender. And when do you get title? When you pay it off. It's the same thing. So the seller retains legal title. The buyer pays PITI, is responsible for all maintenance. This is not a landlord-tenant relationship. And the seller conveys legal title when the buyer pays off the balance of the contract, whether he sells or refinances, which he can do at any time. Now, this is very similar to a lease with option, but you get more payments every month because the buyer's paying the taxes and insurance. The buyer's paying for the maintenance. You're not. Looks like this, similar to a lease option. Payment in on the land contract, payment in out on the underlying loan. And this is a sale. Just like if you did an owner carry sale with a free and clear home, this is a sale. Even though title doesn't pass to the buyer right now, the IRS says this is a sale. Lease option's not a sale. Lease option's a sale when the buyer exercises his option. A land contract is a sale right from the onset. That means the buyer can deduct the payments like a mortgage interest, even though he's not entitled. I know that's a little confusing for some of you, but trust me, the IRS is abundantly clear that this is a sale. Alex asks, what company purchased for the buyer and then offers a rent to own in California? So I'm going to go over that formula a little bit. Let me get to that question a little bit, Alex. I'm going to come back to that. That's a good question. So 3 people already asked, what about the due on sale clause? When you do a lease option, when you do a land contract, when you do a wrap, there's an underlying mortgage that has a clause in it. It's called due on sale. And basically what it says is, in the event you transfer the property or any interest therein, then the lender may, at its option, call all sums due and payable. Let's read it again carefully. The lender may, at its option, call all sums due and payable. What may it also do at its option? Not call all sums due and payable. So it's not really a due on sale clause. It's not due on sale. It's due on sale at the lender's option. At the lender's option. Now, in 1979, when you had a 5% mortgage and market rates were 14 and you did this, you better believe the banks are going to call it in. They're going to exercise that option because they're losing money. They have 9 points negative on money lent. They want it back so they could relend it at 14%. So they're going to make a stink, and they did. Today, we're doing it for a different reason, not to get around a low interest rate and then preserve it necessarily, but to make something easy qual for a buyer so we could sell a house at an inflated price. Now, I've been doing this since the early 90s, and interest rates have been falling since then. And for the last 15 years have been relatively flat, 5%, 4%, 3%, 4%, 3%, 3.5%, 4%. Now they're down to historic lows again. Do you seriously think a lender on a performing note in a house with no equity is going to call in a loan that's 4% interest when market rates are 3.25%? Absolutely not. I've been doing this since 1990. I've done over 1,500 wraps, lease options, land contracts. I've only seen 2 cases where a lender made a stink, and they were very unique cases. So 2 out of 1,500 are pretty good odds. A lot of risks are in real estate. This is not one of them. It's a possibility, So the key is, as a broker, disclosure, 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 disclosure. You want to make sure you have an attorney write up an addendum that makes everybody aware of the risks involved. So if it does blow up, they're not going to point their fingers at you. But realistically, it just really doesn't happen that often. And that presents an opportunity. A lot of times it's just short term. You don't have to do it for 30 years. You could do it for 3 years, and then the buyer gets a refi or sells the property within 3 years. Pretty rarely happens, though. Pretty rarely happens. Let's take a few questions. Oh, so I'll get to your question in a minute, Alex, but let's see in the, everybody says the same thing. Can I get a copy of this? Can I get a copy of this? Oh, great question, Ronaldo. So Ronaldo asks, if a seller uses one of these options, can the seller also use a 1031 exchange while looking for another home that he sells upon the sales price of the lease option? So Ronaldo, a lease with option is landlord-tenant relationship until the buyer buys. Once the buyer exercises that option, the seller can do an exchange at that point. But if you sold it on a wrap or in a land contract and want to roll the balance when the buyer refis and pays you off, too late. You already sold it. So that's an excellent point. Thank you for bringing that up. Does the seller need to let the bank know, asks Rosie. Rose May asks. You know, my mother always taught me it's easier to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. But that's kind of a joke. In all seriousness, if you ask the lender, can I do this? What do you think their answer is going to be? No. And now they're looking for it. Now you just shot yourself in the foot. If you just do it, the lender may, at its option, call all sums due and payable. What may they also do? 99+% of the time, absolutely nothing. Especially, which is very common, sellers 2 payments behind. You come in and make up 2 back payments, and then with the proceeds of the wrap sale, never. Bank's never going to do it. I said there were 2 times where a bank did it. I'll tell you about one of them. One of them was a weird one. I'm not even going to mention that. One of them, this is a great story. I had a client buy a property on a wrap from a seller as an investor. He was a broker too. The seller, about 5 years later, calls up my client and says, I thought you were paying off my loan. He says, I never said that. Well, when are you going to pay it off? And he said, when I feel like it. I guess that was the wrong answer. The seller calls up his lender and says, this is what happened. He won't pay it off. Do something. So the lender writes a letter to my client saying, you know, there's a due on sale and you've triggered it, and pay it off within 30 days or we'll foreclose. So my client comes to me and I said, well, you got 3 options. First of all, dummy, don't deal with a difficult customer like that. You should have first disclosed in writing a little clearer that you were not paying it off immediately, which he didn't. He just did it over a kitchen table with no good disclosures, which is a mistake. You should call this at a title company or attorney's office. Proper disclosures. So I said, you got 3 options. You could A, call their bluff, B, pay it off and sell it, or refi it. Which one do you want to do? He goes, I guess I'll sell it. I said, all right. He goes, but I can't do it within 30 days. I said, all right, let me write a letter to the bank and ask them for more time. That's reasonable, right? So I wrote a letter to the bank. It was Wells Fargo. And I said, dear Wells Fargo, we got your letter and you're right. That's what we did. You know, you got us, but 30 days is completely unreasonable. Can you please give us 6 months to pay it off? Didn't hear anything. 2, 3, 4 weeks went by. I said to my client, you better sell that property right away. It doesn't matter. It's going to take them months to foreclose it anyway, even if we call their bluff. So he sells the property, and about 5 months later, I get a letter in the mail back from Wells Fargo. Do you know what the answer was? No. No. I said, I want 6 months. It took him 6 months to say no. He already sold the property. So that's what we're dealing with here. That's what we're dealing with here. So Sham writes, I've been doing land contracts for a long term, never had a loan called due. That's right. Dave asks, is Section 121 2 out of 5 years or 3? 2 out of 5 years. So if they sell it within 3 of them when they move out, they qualify for the 121 exclusion. Sheila asked the same question. You need to spend 2 out of the last 5 years to qualify for the exclusion. Okay, I haven't forgot about you, Alex. I'm going to come back to you. So some cookie cutter formulas. Here's one cookie cutter formula you can do as an agent. One is build a list of potential buyers with large cash down payments who can't qualify for traditional loans. You can do this a number of ways, through test ads, even though you're not supposed to do those, everybody does. Websites, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, whatever. Gather names of potential people who might want to buy, who can't qualify the traditional way. Find investors who want to get involved in real estate in a passive way. The buyer picks the house. Now I'm getting to your question, Alex, because there are companies that do this. The buyer picks the house. Let's say he wants to live in this zip code. So you show him 3 houses. We go to the investor and say, let's make an offer below market on these 3 houses, and whoever bites, that'll be the one. Okay, so the investor acquires the house at a little bit of a discount and sells to the buyer on a lease with option wrap or land contract at an inflated price. And it's not big numbers we need here, ladies and gentlemen. 10% below market and market up 5% above market, that's a 15% equity spread. That is enough when you mark up the interest rate or on a lease option, the price. And the agent gets a commission on the buy side and on the sell side. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one formula of how it works. Okay, we have a few questions. Let me go to the Q&A here. And yep, answered those questions. Great. All right, so if you have any lingering questions, I'll handle them at the end. How to get started doing this. That's what I promised in the beginning I would talk about. So getting started doing this, what you want to do is, number one, build a list of potential buyers. It's always easier if you have the buyers lined up. Build a list of potential investors who are interested in the strategy as well. And then learn how to put the deals together. Remember, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get everything that you always wanted. And then you can sign up for my Creative Real Estate Financing for Real Estate Brokers and Agents workshop. I'm doing an all-day workshop where you're going to learn all the creative financing techniques, the 3 I covered and many more. Learn how to explain them to sellers and buyers, and that's the key. I give you the script of what to say to sellers and buyers. And learn how to explain it to other agents, because that's the key too. If there's a listed house and you got a buyer with cash, you've got to explain that to the other broker or agent who's listing the property and convince them to convince their client to do it this way and get them paid. Okay, and if they are ignorant on it, they're going to be resistance unless you know how to explain it to them. Learn how to explain it to title companies, because 9 out of 10 don't understand it either. Learn how to locate and qualify investors. Learn how to negotiate creative financing terms, how to document the deals. That's the key. You've got to learn how to document deals. And that's what I'm going to be covering. So what needs to go in the addenda, or where to find an attorney who can do the addenda. Learn the common pitfalls, because there are many. I've done over 1,500 of these. And I can tell you the mistakes that brokers and sellers and buyers make all the time and how to avoid them. Learn how to find the sellers and buyers strategies for changing markets, because remember, next year may be different. 2022 may be even more different. There's a lot of X factors depending on what goes on in, Senate, Congress, presidency, tax policy, COVID, interest rates. There's so many factors being thrown around at us that we need to be able to turn on a dime and turn the strategy to work for us. No matter what the market does, we can make money. And develop a realistic business plan for you as an agent, and maybe even as a participant, as an investor in there, as one of either seller or buyer or investor, to enhance your portfolio altogether, and so much more. It's January 9th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'll leave it to you to translate your time zone. So it's either 3 hours, 2 hours, or 1 hour earlier. It's going to be 1 hour break for lunch. So basically it's going to be 6 hours with a 1 hour break. Admission is limited for this event because my Zoom only holds 100 people. And we're advertising this quite a bit. This is the first crew to get exposure to this. So you get the first crack at it. So it's $497, but we're going to do a special deal, and you can register at More Deals 20. Oh, sorry. Typo. Oh, this is embarrassing. Moredeals2021.com. More deals. Here, let me type it in the chat. So everybody has the right one. My apologies. I typed that real quick. Okay, so it's moredeals2021.com, www. So look at your chat for the correct one. It's More Deals 2021. My apologies. And you get some special bonuses. And I haven't told you the price yet, the discounted price. Give me a minute. You're going to get some special bonuses when you are one of the first 50 people to register, which I hope you are. I have several best-selling books, which I'll include as a download. You'll get it as soon as you register on moredeals2021.com. It's over 1,000 pages of materials. So 3 frogs are sitting in a log. 2 decide to jump off. Hey, Nolly, how many frogs are left?
Right now, 2 or 1.
3 are on a log. 2 decide to jump off. How many frogs are left?
1. Wait a minute. 2 decide to jump off.
Ah, now you're on to me.
They decide to jump off.
Or how many frogs are on the log still? All 3.
1.
All 3. Deciding to do something and actually doing it are 2 different things. So if
I like this. I'm taking that one.
You can take that one. I didn't make that one up either. If I piqued your curiosity, if I've got you encouraged to learn something new, that it's a tool in your toolbox for 2021, register for the event. So it's More Deals 2021, ignore the 2020, 2021.com. And it's going to be just $297 for early registration, $297. And you get my books, and you're going to get a recording of the event as well. So you'll get the recording, the PowerPoint, audio files, video files, the books, over 1,000 pages of quality material. You can't beat it. The only thing I would say would be better is if you got continuing education credit for it. I'm working on that, but you got to do it in 50 states. At the very least, if I can get continuing education for teaching it as a broker, so I can satisfy my own. I'm definitely working on that. All right, let's do some Q&A, and then we'll wrap up, and you can go over to moredeals2021.com. What do you mean the link isn't working? Because you typed in the wrong thing there, Ken. 2021, I'm going to type it in the chat there, moredeals2021.com. Bill had it. Yeah, Bill had it in there. So moredeals2021.com. You click straight from the chat. Maybe it needs the HTTP in front of it. www.moredeals2021.com. Try that link, Janelle. Okay. Thank you. Link isn't working. Link isn't working. It's working now. Thank you, Sham. I appreciate the kudos. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, this will be recorded. This will be recorded, so there will be a replay that Nolly will send out. Let's see if we have any more questions in the Q&A. Alex says, I only found them in lower price markets, the companies that do what I said, which is there are a couple of big companies that buy with the investor and sell it to the buyer / tenant buyer on a lease option. I only found them in lower price markets, said Alex. Are the investor companies in high price markets? Here's the challenge, Alex. When you sell high priced homes, you don't get as much rent compared to lower priced homes. That's why they're only doing it in lower price markets. Wraps work much better on high-end homes. Nobody is doing that. There are a few companies who will buy the house for you and sell it to you on a lease option at an inflated price. But nobody I've ever seen is getting an investor to buy a house and sell it to you on a wrap. That is a wide open market in 2021. Do you still qualify for the homestead exemption? Says Sheila, if you spent enough time to qualify and not pay tax when you sell. Well, you don't qualify for the homestead exemption, Sheila, if you move out of the house. Once you move out of the house, whether you rent it or sell it or whatever, you're not going to have a homestead exemption. So you don't get the lower tax rate, or in Florida, the exemption from creditors or anything like that. So that doesn't apply. But you still do get the exclusion from 121 gain if you sell it within 3 years of moving out. So that gives you 2 of the last 5 to live there, assuming you've lived there for 2 years before that. Okay. Great questions.
So Bill, the link, I tried the link and it doesn't work. And we're getting a number of these. So
hold on. I have a backup. Hold on, everybody. I don't know what's going on there. It worked about 10 minutes ago. All right. I do have a backup. I always have a backup. Double redundancy. Go to bronchick.com, my last name, /webinar, workshop. Try that one. That should work. I'll type it with the whole thing in there.
Oh, let me see what we got. Somebody found it. More closings 2021. Is that right?
Oh, because I'm an idiot. I typed it for you. You found it? Moreclosings2021.com?
That's it. More closings 2021.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just put that in because my web IT guy just finished it up like an hour before the webinar. So I had it on the first one, then I had to move it. So my apologies, everyone. That was a typo. So moreclosings2021.com. We got it right. Moreclosings2021, or the other one I just gave you off of my website. Sorry, everybody. I'm glad that you're checking it out and encouraged that you're looking to sign up. That's great. So More Closings 2021. Sign up now. It's $297 early bird pricing. You get a recording video, recording audio. You can ask Q&A during the event, and you're going to get my books as well as an instant. You get that instantly. As soon as you sign up, you'll get an email that said, here's a folder, download the books. And there's a bonus book in there, which I'm not going to mention what it is, but you'll see it in the email. It's an extra bonus book. You really like that one. It's a great book. It changed my life. So that works. That's what I'm getting. Yep, that works. Thank you. Any lingering questions before we wrap up? Let's see. I see a couple here. Marcia asked, will this be compliant in general for agents in any market because we're in different states? That's a great question. And the answer is yes. I've done research in all 50 states for these techniques, and I know which ones work in which states and which ones don't. I've been doing it for a long time. I've spoken in probably 40 out of 50 states on these topics in the last 10 years. So I'm very aware, and I just had a paralegal I hired to go research all 50 states and double check if anything has changed. So it's absolutely current and up to date. Are these techniques EXP compliant? Maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, the one thing, I mean, and this is one thing that you're going to continue to find when you, and Bill, you can kind of speak to this, when you go to, for example, your broker, or you go to, anyone in compliance, it all falls back to what's legal. And a lot of times what you'll find is that many of the brokers, no matter what company you're with, whether you're with EXP, Keller Williams, Remax, and I know there's many agents here with many agencies, the brokers don't really have all the answers. I bought my—
They're always going to say, go see an attorney.
Yeah, go see an attorney. And the reality is, I bought the home that I'm in right now on a wraparound. And if I'd asked probably 5 brokers, if this was possible, I'd have got 5 different answers. And so I went to an attorney that had the real answer. And so yeah, these are, I'm not going to bring anybody on that would not speak to anything that's not compliant with EXP, which is the brokerage I'm with, or really any brokerage. So these are all, this is the legendary Bill Bronchick that we're here with. And these are these are absolutely compliant. And so it really boils down to sometimes the attorney explaining to the broker why it's compliant and how to do it, right? Because a lot of times, Bill, brokers just don't like doing things they don't understand.
Right. And that's what I want people watching to overcome, to get you comfortable so that you can understand it, document it, bring in the right attorney if necessary, explain it to sellers, explain it to buyers, explain it to your managing broker, explain it to other agents involved in the transaction. That's the key, and that's what I'll be covering at the workshop. Someone just asked what's included with it. It's a 6-hour workshop. You get a video recording, audio recording. You're going to get my books, which is an instant download. And that's only for the first people who register, for 50 people who register. So, and I did mention in the email, I think we mentioned in the email that the first 25 people to register for this are going to get a free copy of my book, Owner Financing Secrets, which is one of my paperbacks. So I'll give the link to you and you could email it out. I'll give you the list of who are the first 25 people. So if you're one of those lucky 25, congratulations. Congratulations. All right.
There's a couple last minute little questions that popped in here. I don't know if you
I think I got all of them.
Okay.
In terms of price, whoops, what did I do here? I lost my, there it is. In terms of price, $297 is like a joke compared to what you're getting. I mean, I charge $400 an hour. If I do one creative financing closing, I'm charging between $1,500 and $2,000, which is cheap too, compared to the agent's commission. That's why I got my broker's license, because when I did my first closing, I remember it was like 1991. And I hadn't really done much real estate at that point. A broker friend of mine who I went to high school with said, can you do a closing for me and represent these buyers who are buying a co-op in New York, where I used to live? I said, sure, what do I do? He says, you're kidding me, right? You went to law school. I said, well, I don't teach anything real. It's all theory. He says, well, just hold their hand and don't say anything too stupid to give it away. I said, I can do that. I can play that part. So we go into the closing and they're throwing paper around and I'm like, let me see that. Yeah, that looks good. Sign that. I had no idea what I was doing. It's a good thing I didn't do anything wrong. Well, I just figured, look, if the bank made the document, they're not going to allow you to negotiate it. So they had to sign it or not do the deal, right? So at the end of the closing, I noticed something interesting. There was two brokers, mortgage guy, title guy, 2 attorneys, and the checks started getting passed around. Seller, listing agent, buyer's agent, title company, lender guy. Guess whose check was the smallest? Mine. I said, I'm on the wrong side of the table here. I'm doing all the work and I'm getting the smallest check. I should be the seller or I should be the broker. So that's what got me the bug to get involved in real estate. And I've been hooked ever since. I've been an investor for 28 years. I've been a broker. I've been an attorney. I've been a mentor to a lot of people buying and selling real estate as an investor. And I really want to bring this to the masses of real estate brokers and agents, because I really, truly think that in 2021, there's going to be this opportunity for those who know these techniques to really edge out their competition and close more deals. I really believe that. Yeah.
So 2 other things. There was somebody had mentioned about the ones that registered.
Yeah, the first 25 people we said are registered and get an ebook. I'm going to pull the names of the first 25 people, email them to you, and you can email them the link to the book.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then some of the myths. I don't know if a few people want to stay after class, but there are a lot of creative financing myths. Like I said, I bought my personal residence with creative financing, and I love it. I mean, it really is a door opener, because I'm one of those that absolutely looks broke to the IRS. Because my whole lifestyle is a write-off. My whole life is a write-off. But are there any myths out there? This can't be
many people are like, there's a due on sale jail. If you violate the due on sale, the lender's going to put you in jail. That's just a joke. Yeah. There is never anybody in recorded history who was ever prosecuted for that. It's a contractual agreement. It's a mortgage between the borrower and the lender. And if you transfer the property, and by the way, there's nothing in any Fannie Mae loan doc that says you have to tell them. Nothing. So if you do it, they find out and they choose to care, they can enforce the loan. That's all. That's all. And frankly, I said, I've done over 1,500 transactions in the last 30 years, and I've only seen 2 cases where the lender made a stink. And you can see Sham here, who's I've known for a while, and we've met many times at conventions and stuff. And he's used my materials before and done a lot of land contracts, and he's never seen a lender. And frankly, I've never seen it. That's it. Can happen. Got to disclose. That's the key. The myth is you can't do this, or you can't get paid doing this. That's not true. You get paid very well. I'll tell you one more strategy, and then we'll wrap it up with this. This is another cookie cutter strategy, which I'll cover in the workshop, the details on how to do I have a client who's a broker. And what he does is he calls up listing agents with short sales. And he says, well, what's the story? How far behind are they? And what is owed and what is it worth? So for example, if it's worth 400 and they owe 500, there's not much you can do but a short sale, obviously. But if they owe 400 and it's worth 400 and there's 3-4 payments behind and the realtor's trying to do a short sale because he thinks that's the only way we're going to get paid, there's another angle. So what my client does is he says, look, if we can make up those 3 back payments and bring in a buyer who can take over those payments on a wrap, and he's got enough to cure the back payments and pay both of our brokerage fees, do we have a deal? And the listing agent would say, sure. So he had a list of buyers. He brought in someone who's got 40 grand to put down. Listing agent gets paid, buyer's agent gets paid, and the 3 back payments are made up, and it's good for the seller because you're taking it out of foreclosure. And then we wrap it from there and close it. I think that's brilliant. I think that's something anyone watching can do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
and usually you're like on a lease with option, you're going to get 3 to 5% of the purchase price, which is minimum, $10K. And if you do a land contract or a wrap, they're putting much more down. They're putting, 20, 30, 40, 50 down. So there's plenty of room in there.
It's brilliant.
I think, agents watching, or brokers, you could do at least 1-2 deals a month doing this formula. If you specialize in this, everybody's going to do is refer them to you because you're going to get a reputation as, hey, this guy can do these wraps and land contracts and things that I have no idea how to do because I never went to Bill Bronchick's workshop.
I really appreciate you, Bill. I just thought I'd throw this out. You're not paying me to be on here. I'm not receiving a dime, from the, enrollments. There's no affiliate agreement. But we've got some wonderful agents in our group. Eric Garris is one of them. And when he told me that he closed a deal, got a $22,000 commission, and the deal closed, I think he told me it closed in like 18 hours or something like that. And he used you to do that. I said, this is a guy that I need to introduce to my tribe, right, because I absolutely love what you're doing. And it's phenomenal. There's Eric. Yeah. Did I get the details right, Eric? Eric says yes. He closed a deal in 18 hours and got a $22,500 commission. And he used your system. So I said, I got to tell my people about this. Yeah. So that's why we had you here. Thank
you. I'm writing it out now. .com. I got it right this time. Moreclosings2021.com. It's $297 again. That's the discounted price for signing up now. You get my books, instant download. You get a video and audio recording of the event, and a special extra bonus in your email when you do register, which I don't want to tell you it's a surprise, but it's a good one.
Yeah. Well, I said you weren't giving me anything from this, but you've given a lot of knowledge, and you'll probably buy me a nice dinner when I'm in Colorado Springs.
Absolutely. And next time I'm in Austin, which I love to visit. It's a wonderful town.
Yeah, you betcha. All right. Well, thank you so much. We know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for bringing these strategies to us. Everybody's thanking you as well.
Thank you. I see a bunch of you. Oh, and one last thing here. You want to join my Facebook group, and that's the wrong thing at the bottom there, so ignore that. It's More Closings 2021. But I'll put my Facebook group in here. It's called Creative Real Estate Financing. Creative Real Estate Financing, and youtube.com/Bronchick. I have about 15 videos on this topic on there. But I really want to bring this to brokers and agents, because I really think that the more we educate brokers and agents, the more deals we can all do. Moreclosings2021.com. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Thanks again. And there'll be tomorrow a live replay. So bring some friends and come on again. We'll do it tomorrow. What time is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow is, you got me on that one. I think tomorrow is at, I don't want to give the wrong time. I think I know what it is, but let me double.
We're going to do it live again, or we're going to do a Memorex?
Well, we might do, I'm not sure. Tomorrow we might do, so I'm getting the memo here. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern. And so we'll figure out the details on that. We'll get it.
That's live, said, yeah. So I'm getting a message.
Oh, live.
Let's live. Yeah, I'll do it live again. Join tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Let's do it live.
All righty.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the invite, and I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate your trust in me, and I appreciate everyone being here. Thanks a lot.